I told Jack Frost's story from his girlfriend's perspective, and it's something you might want to consider for your stories as well, depending on how you're focusing the story that you're writing. So in my Jack Frost retelling, we have a group of people who are living in an underground bunker. They don't really realize they're in an underground bunker, and they're being tested to form a stronger race because up above, what they don't know is that there's a nuclear war up there. There's a lot going on. And so they are kind of protected and sheltered from a lot of that, but in exchange for them unknowingly being part of a test group to enhance themselves so that they can survive in really bad conditions. So the weather conditions are being thrown at them in crazy, crazy ways because the environment above is also out of control. And so we discover that there is some technology that everybody finds that it's not supposed to exist there, and they start to get the idea that something is wrong, that somebody is betraying them, that there's a lot going on, and that their weird weather is not just weird weather, but is being actively controlled as part of the test by an outside entity that is overseeing them. And so we're going through this story to see how Jack Frost became the legend that he is. It's a sci-fi dystopian story. There's no magic involved in it, but it's Jack Frost versus an out-of-control weather machine. So you would think that I would tell this from Jack's perspective, right? But I didn't. I told it from his girlfriend's perspective. Partly because I know what I'm doing throughout the course of this story. I know what I'm doing throughout the course of this series because it is part of a series. And I knew where I was going. I knew how everything was going to end. I knew I needed it from a certain perspective, but I really love being able to tell it through his girlfriend's perspective because we get to learn things about Jack that she learns as she learns them. Jack has some secrets. Jack has some personality traits. Jack goes through some things and he's not able to internalize them the way that she is. He has to go through these things and she gets to watch. So we get a lot of valuable perspective from that outsider's opinion, from those outside eyes. We see how he's doing things. We see his interactions. We see him from somebody who is going to be able to tell his story a little bit more objectively than he was. Because if we went through the story through Jack's eyes, we know things that everybody else doesn't know. We have access to information that everybody else doesn't have access to. We have his own thoughts and opinions on this, and we don't really get a reliable source of information. And that can go for any story because we're seeing it from one dedicated perspective, and we're only getting their perspective, not those outside perspectives. So I wanted to make sure that I was telling this through his girlfriend's point of view. So Genesis tells us the story. We learn things about Jack as she learns. We see his actions through her eyes. We see it through her perspective, and we see it with that objectivity that we wouldn't get through Jack's perspective. And because we don't get to see what he's thinking and what he's feeling, some of his actions are a little bit on the surprising side. Some of his actions are different than how we would consume those and internalize them if we were reading it from his perspective, knowing these things were coming. And the things that happen to him, the stuff that he has to go through, we get to see it very, very differently in a way that's going to allow us to tell a much better story. But I also really liked the idea of watching the woman who loves him learn more about him, and change that relationship as they both grow. So I get to watch a man become a legend through the eyes of the person that already thinks he's this amazing legend. And we get to see that growth and that evolution and those changes and the ups and downs from that girlfriend's perspective. It allows me to romanticize him. It allows me to learn more about him. It allows me to have access to him more intimately, but not through his perspective. So I really, really liked being able to tell his story, but from her lens and from her viewpoint. She gets to be the one that turns him into a legend. In the end, she's the one that vocalizes and conceptualizes and constructs his story. She is the one who is kind of like informing people and telling people what's going on, and she crafts this legend for the other people involved so that they know what happened, so that they know what's going on, so they know why he's doing the things that he's doing, so that we know why they're all going through the things that we are going through. And I really, really love that she gets to be the one to tell the story. It's like watching your best friend, your boyfriend, your sister, your whoever, and just knowing that they're wonderful human beings and wanting to tell everybody else why they should love that person too. And we get to tell all these glowy, rose-colored glass version stories of them with those doses of reality. And I love it. I loved being able to go through and watch Jack, because it's his story, but it's through Genesis's eyes. She gets to tell us what we need to know. And it's just a really fun way to kind of put a twist on a story. So if you have a story, especially a retelling, that is focusing on a character and it's really their journey, their story, and everybody else is along for the ride. It's their journey too. They're the own main characters in their own stories, but it kind of leans heavily toward one person. Instead of telling it from their perspective, try putting it in another person's POV. Tell their story through someone else's lens and see what it does to your story. Because I very well could have told this story from Jack's perspective and it would have been a very different story. Exact same storyline, exact same plot points, very different story. So think about what you could do for Cinderella or Snow White or Little Miss Muffet or whatever, and look at what should be like a side character or a love interest and tell it through their lens view. Tell it through their viewpoint. Tell us through the girlfriend, through the boyfriend, through the best friend, through the sister, what is happening. Oh my gosh, think about that. Think about the siblings and the friends and the other people that could tell these big fairy tale stories, but from that best friend perspective. Man, that would be an awesome story. So let me know, are you going to try this in your writing down below? Is this going to be a fun writing exercise for you or an actual story? And let me know what questions you have on the conspiracy of Jack Frost. I want to talk more about this story because this is one of my favorite ones that I have written and it is so underrated. Make sure you're checking it out. I'll link it down below for you, but you do not want to miss out on this one. Drop your questions and I'll see you in the upcoming daily videos helping you navigate the world of your publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make sure that this is your most profitable year ever. Gemma agrees. She has her allergies today, so sorry. But let us know what your questions are and we'll see you in those daily videos.